I got a comment on one of my book reviews saying that I have no class. Sis, are you new here? We've known this for a while now. I can't believe I gotta put a disclaimer here, but if you are new to this channel and you're looking for quality content, you came to the wrong place. With that in mind, let's talk about Vicious by VE Schwab. You know, I thought that this was gonna be a nice fantasy story about two college roommates who are possibly gay. What I got was this weird superhero dick measuring contest, and that they are definitely gay. Vicious is about two guys who were best friends and they were roommates. But now they have become mortal enemies. I know, can you believe that? Oh my god, they were roommates. They've had the biggest beef for 10 years. These guys have never seen Frozen because they don't know how to let it go. They started off as young, bright college students, both intelligent and arrogant, which by the way is the most inseparable combination of qualities to have for men. The main character is Victor Vale. He kind of acts like he has a stick up his ass. Victor likes drawing over books with Sharpies and making blackout poetry because he thinks he's like in a John Green novel or some shit. His friend Eli is this enigmatic, manic pixie dream boy, so he's definitely in a John Green novel. Maybe that's why Victor is jealous. So these two are best friends, and Eli is dating a girl named Angie, who Victor occasionally gets jealous over. But jealous over whom, you may ask? Eli or Angie? Good question. The answer is yes. Eli decides that his thesis project will be about extraordinary people, aka superheroes, on whether they exist, how they gained their abilities, and all that kind of jazz. His theory is that you gain these abilities from a near-death experience. And Victor's like, hey, you know what would be a good idea? If we had a near-death experience to test it out. Then Eli's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's almost kill ourselves. What? I got an idea. Let's not do that. Why can't you guys pick something normal for a science project like volcanoes or some shit? Except don't do that, because knowing how extra these two are, they would probably use it as an excuse to literally fling themselves to an actual volcano. Victor gets so obsessed with experimenting on this and outperforming Eli. Whatever Eli does, Victor wants to do better. He's like, what? Eli nearly killed himself? I'm gonna nearly kill myself too, except I'm gonna do it even better. How about that, Eli? Who's the winner now? Nobody's the winner, you dumb bitch. Eli's balls are freezing off in the bathtub and you're having a fucking seizure. Nobody's having a good time. Don't you guys have exams or something? Like, what the fuck? Long story short, things go wrong, they both get powers, some people get killed, and some people take the fall for it. Now 10 years have passed, and Victor has broken out of prison and is enacting his revenge plan. Because these two have become mortal enemies, and they have the longest standing beef ever. Victor has been thinking about Eli every day, non-stop for this plan. Okay. Sorry, I think I had something stuck in my throat. Just like Victor wishes he was stuck in Eli's throat. What? Who said that? There's no homoerotic subtext here. Not at all. Also, Eli has changed his last name to Ever because he wants to be remembered forever. Bitch, this ain't Tumblr. Let me tell you who I'm rooting for. Nobody, because they're both fucking crazy. That's basically the story of Vicious. It's about two guys who are very egocentric and they have a weird dick measuring contest with each other. Yeah, that's all I got. Obviously there's more, but I won't say any more because of spoilers. But I will say though that when I got to the middle part of this book, I just flew through it because it became very addicting to read. And I think the reason for that is the addition of the female characters' perspectives. There are two girls named Sydney and Serena, and they are sisters coming from opposite sides of this rivalry. And I just found them really interesting to read about. They added a unique dynamic to the story. I fuck with them. They're really legit. I would have loved to see a story that's centered on those two as the main characters instead, because I typically don't care for, you know, like the egocentric male characters, because we got enough of that in real life, honey. I think the addition of the other characters and their perspectives made the story feel more well-rounded overall, and again, it just added an interesting dynamic. So overall thoughts, I rated this book 4 stars. I thought that it was very fun, very dark, very dramatic, and I usually don't care for superhero stories because I think that they're very oversaturated, but I think that Schwab has executed it pretty well. Having short chapters and having her very snappy writing just made it very fast-paced. I also really liked that she jumped in between different timelines. Like, you'll read what happened 10 years ago, and then you'll read about it present day, and then you'll read about what happened yesterday, and then what happened 2 days before that. There might be a lot of whiplash from that, but I did enjoy the fact that the timeline was not linear. It just made the whole format very interesting. And even though I wasn't rooting for any of the characters per se, I still appreciated the roles that they played overall in the story. And there's this constant theme of this gray morality and how people fall on the spectrum of villainy. What I enjoyed is, like, this is a superhero story, but there aren't actually any heroes. Basically, all of them are villains in some way. Well, maybe Sydney is different. Sydney might be the only good one in the story, but other than that, they all fall under this gray morality, which I found pretty interesting. So what keeps me from rating this a solid 5 stars is the fact that not all of the character stories were explored in depth. I think that if you are going to include more than just the main characters' perspectives and you're going to include the side characters, they need to be fleshed out too. But even then, you know, like with the main characters, with Victor and Eli, I felt like their motivations weren't rock solid enough to justify all of the drama. For example, Eli was very quick to go against Victor, and it was just very sudden, and I don't completely understand why the total 180. So that could have been fleshed out more. And also, a lot of Victor's motivation is rooted in gay subtext, but I think we kind of lost an opportunity to explore his sexuality a lot deeper. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like, oh, you should make everything gay. If Schwab had addressed Victor being gay and grappling with that sexuality in his own twisted way, it would have added a lot more drama to the story and perhaps added a lot more depth to their motivation. Something to note as well is that I saw these characters more by the roles that they played rather than actual real people, which I think is fine, but maybe personally for me, I just prefer characters that feel real and are more character driven rather than plot driven. In particular, I kind of wish that the female character storylines were done better because Angie was done so dirty. Serena is kind of like in the seductress role, which is interesting, but is very typical of a female character in these kinds of stories, you know? I think the addition of Sydney helped make it feel more well-rounded, but I do wish I could have had more. But that's just me. I just like my ladies, and I like having them as developed as possible. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is that at times, I felt like the writing was a little bit cheesy. It was almost kind of cartoonish in a way with how gritty and edgy it was trying to be. Like, there was this one scene where Victor is in prison and he's just like this skinny white dude in prison, but he walks around like he's a badass and people know they can't fuck with him. I could definitely tell that Schwab had influences from anime. Maybe that's fine because superhero stories typically aren't deep anyway, and they do tend to be cartoonish. This is really just my personal preference, and I'm obviously just nitpicking it. But overall, the book is still a very solid and fun read. If people rated it 5 stars, I totally can understand why. I definitely plan on picking up the sequel, especially because I saw that she is adding new female characters, and I'm just more invested in the women in this story. A criticism that I saw was the lack of diversity, but I kind of feel like if you're reading a Schwab book, you ain't gonna have many non-white characters. Let's be real. To be fair, it didn't detract my enjoyment of the story, although I did wonder why are so many people blonde here? But I don't know, it wasn't a huge deterrent to me. If you enjoy anime, I think that you would like this book. In particular, I was reminded of Cowboy Bebop just because the moodiness and the mismatched cast of characters gave me similar vibes to that. I was also reminded of Death Note because essentially it's a battle between 2 genius male characters. So if you enjoyed that dynamic, I think that you would really enjoy this book. And if you like X-Men, you should check it out. I do not know much about X-Men because I don't follow superhero stories, but a lot of people say that this is basically X-Men. So FYI. And yeah, that is pretty much it for my review. Obviously, this review has no class, but you should already know that by now. Thanks for watching. Bye. This ain't no place for no